Okay, to create this Bluetooth example, I have created a new project called Bluetooth Connect, and I made sure that it's at least an Android 2 or higher SDK. And I've set up the user interface so that we have a text view, which is going to be changing according to some of the things that will be happening in the app, and a connect button that will start the process to turn on Bluetooth, and then a disconnect button that will turn off Bluetooth. And then I just have a graphic on here for visual interest. And the way the app is going to work is that we'll start with the text view and the connect button, disconnect, and the graphic will not display until Bluetooth is actually turned on the device. So these have all been set up with their properties appropriately with different names so that we'll be able to refer to them in the code. Now the other thing I have set up is in the manifest file, I have already added the permissions that will be required. So we need Bluetooth and the Bluetooth admin permission. And then in the main Java file, I've already done some other setup as well. So I've set up for the status update for our text view, the two buttons, and then the image view. Since we're going to be working with these dynamically to show and display, we have to reference them. Now in the onCreate, I have set up a method called setupUI, which is to set up the user interface, because that's going to have a lot of things going along with it, and I thought for clarity purposes it would be easier to separate this from the onCreate method. Now in the onCreate method, I have references to the text view and the buttons and the image view, and then I have them set up to display with either being turned on or being turned off. So at the beginning, everything is set to be turned off, and then in a minute we will set this up so that if the Bluetooth is connected, it will show the disconnect button and the logo, and if it's not connected, then it's only going to show us the connect button. And I have set up the on-click event listeners for the two buttons, so we have the onset click listener for the connect button, and then the onset click listener for the disconnect button. And so that's the only thing that I have set up so far in this application. Okay, so let's work with this to see how we can check to see if Bluetooth is already turned on or not. In order to work with the hardware part of a device that would have Bluetooth, we use the Bluetooth adapter class. So we need to create a Bluetooth adapter object. So at the beginning of my main, I'm going to put in a reference to the Bluetooth adapter, and I need to import in the Bluetooth adapter, and it's going to be referred to as BT adapter. The Bluetooth adapter class initializes the Bluetooth hardware on a device. And we use the getDefaultAdapter method to retrieve information about the Bluetooth interface. So it will determine if a device has a Bluetooth radio. So when our user clicks the connect button, that's when we want to get information about the Bluetooth hardware on the device. So I'm going to say in here our Bluetooth adapter is going to get the default adapter. Now the getDefaultAdapter method is what will retrieve information about the Bluetooth radio interface. So when we click on the connect button, we're going to start this using getDefaultAdapter, and then we need to check to see whether there's anything there, if there is an adapter. So let's put some code in here, and we're just going to check to see if the Bluetooth adapter is enabled. So the is enabled method is going to check to see if the Bluetooth is ready. And if this returns null, that means that the device doesn't support Bluetooth. And while we're at it, what we're going to do is If it is enabled, we're going to use the getAddress method, and it's going to get the hardware address of the device. So you can see the example here, 00:1122AA. So that's the hardware address of the device. So if it's enabled, we're going to get that information. And then we're also going to get the name of the device. And then we're going to compile that together into a string and put that into our status update text. And if it's not turned on, right, if Bluetooth is not enabled, then we're going to set the text in there to say that the Bluetooth is not on. So I'm going to save this, and let's test this in let's try the emulator so you can see what happens on an emulator. Okay, let's see, my connect button is missing completely, and that's because up here in my setup user interface I have it invisible. So I'm going to comment that line out, and then let's try that again. Okay, so now I'm able to connect. So let's test this out and see what happens. And we get this force close error message. And that's because our emulator is not capable of working with Bluetooth. Now, in the emulator, and I'll show you how to do this so that you can do it on your device as well. If you go into the settings and wireless and networks and Bluetooth settings, right, it's locking up and freezing on the emulator. So even just trying to go into the settings on an emulator, you'll get an error on there. So the emulator is not going to be of much use in working with Bluetooth, so I'm going to quit that. So now I'm going to run and test this on a device, and then I'm going to go into the DDMS and grab some screenshots for you as it goes. So let's run this, and then I'm going to switch to the DDMS and turn on my camera. Okay, so this is capturing a screen right from my device. Now, as soon as I tap the connect button, I'm going to hit refresh here, and you should see an updated screen from my device. Okay, so it says Bluetooth is not on. So all we've done so far, let me close out of this, we'll go back to our Java. So all we've done so far is just tested to see whether it is enabled, whether Bluetooth is on or not. So we haven't gone through the process of actually turning it on, we're just checking to see if it's on. So we have our status update to say Bluetooth is not on. So let's go to the next step of turning on the Bluetooth. Okay, so before we start implementing this, I'm going to move the logic around a little bit on here. I'm going to set up so that the on click for our connect button is just going to be connecting us to the Bluetooth. So I'm going to put this part up into the user interface setup, because what I'd like to have happen is right away when the screen loads, I want it to tell me whether Bluetooth is enabled or not, and if it is, to go ahead and display some information, and if not, give me another message that it's not on. And also, if it's not on, then we're going to display the connect button. So I'm going to change that view to visible. So when the onCreate starts, it's going to do the setup user interface, and it's going to get our references. It's going to hide the disconnect button. It's going to hide the logo. Now it's going to check to see if the Bluetooth adapter is enabled. And if it is, then we get the information of what is enabled and put it in the status text. And if it's not, then it's going to show the connect button, and it's going to say that the status update, that the Bluetooth is not turned on. So now it will be set up so in here, when the user clicks connect, now we want it to do the actions specific to turning on Bluetooth. So I'll paste some code in here, and I'm going to need to import some things. Okay, so what we have are a couple of strings. One is for Bluetooth adapter action state changed, and you can see that it's a broadcast action. So we're going to have to implement a broadcast receiver. And this is going to broadcast when the state of the Bluetooth adapter is changing. And then we also have a string for action request enabled. And what that will do is show an activity. So it's going to pop up a dialog that will ask the user to turn Bluetooth on or cancel if they decide not to. And then we have an intent that is going to broadcast the action state changed so that it was turned on or turned off. And then we're going to register this receiver, which hasn't been created yet. And then we're going to start an activity, and we want a result back so that we know that when that has occurred, so that we'll be able to do something with the information that we receive back. Okay, so just to see what happens with this so far, I'm going to comment out our receiver part for now so that you can see what's going to happen when we're doing an action request enabled, and then we have our start activity for result, which is going to begin this request. So again, I'm going to run this on my device, and then I'm going to switch over to the DDMS so that you can see what it looks like. Okay, so we have Bluetooth is not on automatically. We didn't even have to tap the connect button in order to get that message this time. And now when I tap my connect button, right, we have our Bluetooth permission request. So from here, the user can choose yes or no. If it was already on, this doesn't even pop up. So I had it turned off on my device. So if I tap yes on my device, all right, here's what my screen looks like. It says it's turning on Bluetooth. And then once that's finished, if I refresh my screen again, now it's coming back to the same screen, and this looks like it's not on, but it actually hasn't refreshed our user interface. So we'll have to work that into the code as well to tell it to refresh this. So on my device, I'm going to go out to the settings, and I'm going to show you what that looks like, right? It turned Bluetooth on. So before, when the app first started to run, Bluetooth was turned off, and it actually turned on. One of the benefits of enacting a broadcast receiver is to be able to get information back that this happened. This went ahead and did it, but our user interface didn't update and change or do any type of notification. So let's implement that part next. So since we want to get information back about the state change of Bluetooth, we're going to implement a receiver, and we're going to call it Bluetooth state. So I'm going to do that up before the on create. Okay, so I'm going to paste in the receiver, the broadcast receiver information here, and we'll look. First of all, let me import in everything that is being highlighted. So we have our broadcast receiver called Bluetooth state, and it's a new broadcast receiver. And on receive, we're creating a couple of strings that are the equivalent of the text strings for extra previous state. And we'll get the information when there is a state change. So you can see in here the options are state off, state turning on, and state turning off. So we want to be notified about any of those events. And then we have our extra state, and it's also as an extra field in the action state changed intent. And then we're going to use that state in our get extras and assign it to state and previous state. Right now we're not using that, so I can comment that out. So we have a toast that's going to display and let us know when Bluetooth is turning on, or that it's on and it's turning off, or that it's already off. And I can see that what I copied in didn't have the toasts in here for these, so I'm going to put them in. So we will see a toast message when Bluetooth, when the state turning on occurs. So we have our switch statement, and we're looking at the state that's coming in, that's defined here, that's coming back from our intent. So it's listening for these events, and when they occur, the switch statement is going to figure out which one it is based on the state and display a toast with this appropriate message. So we have whether it's turning on or whether it's already on, or that it's turning off or that it's already off. So we just have some text messages in here and displaying toasts. One thing I did add in here was when the state is on, in other words, when it changes so that the Bluetooth adapter is turned on, we're going to tell it to go back in and set up the user interface again. And we should actually do that for when the state is off as well. So if it's turned off somehow, then it should redraw this user interface. Okay, now I have just turned off the Bluetooth on my device, so I'm going to try running this again, and then we'll go into the DDMS and follow along using snapshots from the camera, right? So Bluetooth is not on, and if I tap connect on my device, I have this dialog screen, so I'm going to tap yes, right? And we have our toast message saying it's turning on, and then we also have a message. I missed it on the toast, but it said Bluetooth was on. And now we have the information on the device. So we have the name of the device and the address of the device. But the interface is kind of a little goofed up here. It's showing connect even though we are connected. If I come back out, let me go to my device settings and update this on the screen. Right, Bluetooth is connected. So we need to fix the interface on here. So I'm going to go back out to my Java file. And let's go down to the setup user interface method. Okay, so in the setup user interface method, we can see that it's setting the disconnect button and the logo to gone, whether it's connected to the Bluetooth or not. So we want to move this around. So if the Bluetooth adapter is enabled, then we want to do a couple of things here. So if that's the case, then we want the disconnect button to be visible because it is connected. We want a logo to display, and then we want to make the connect button disappear. And otherwise, if it's not enabled, then we want the connect button to display. So let's see what that looks like. We go into the DDMS, back to our camera. Okay, now I'm going to tap connect, and yes, turning Bluetooth on. All right. Got it, just as the toast was starting to disappear. So now this works the way I had envisioned. So it's connected, and so we have the name of the device and the address. The disconnect button is showing, our logo is showing, our toast appears. And so now we want to set up the disconnect button. So right now it doesn't do anything. We haven't done anything about turning off the Bluetooth. So let's go back out to the Java code and see how to set up our disconnect button. So in our disconnect, we're going to disable the Bluetooth adapter, and then we're going to set up our visibility of what we want to have show up. So we want the disconnect button to disappear. We want the logo to disappear. We want the connect button to display, and we also want our status text to change. So I'm going to save this, and now I'm going to run it again. I'm going to make sure that Bluetooth is turned off on my device, so we'll start it from the beginning. So I'm going to connect, tap yes. Okay, so now we have this all displaying properly. And now when I tap my disconnect button, right, it says Bluetooth turning off, and my status text changed, and my connect button displays, and then I could start that whole process all over again. So we've gone full cycle of being able to turn on and turn off Bluetooth directly from within an application. So that would be the first step in building an app, to be able to at least have the user set that up without making them go through the process of first going into their settings, right? They would have to, if we didn't provide this for them within the app, they would have to go into the wireless and networks settings, and then they would have to go into the Bluetooth settings, and then from here they would have to turn on Bluetooth. And also from in here, you can see where some of this information is coming from, where the device name that was showing up on our screen, you can set that in here. And the next video that we'll look at is making your device discoverable so that other devices that are trying to connect with you through the Bluetooth will be able to find you. So just turning Bluetooth on does not automatically make you discoverable to other devices unless you have already paired with that other device. And you can see here that I have another device that I had been testing with, and it was paired with it previously, but right now it's not connected. So another video, we will look at how to get discovered.